On a cold and stormy night, the rain poured down in heavy sheets, washing the streets and turning the city into a shimmering sea of reflections. Ethan, a charming artist known for his soulful paintings and gentle heart, walked slowly beneath his worn leather jacket, the collar turned up against the rain. His usually confident steps had a quiet hesitance tonight. He was restless, caught between the memories of his past loves and a deep longing he could not explain. As he turned a corner near the old town square, he saw her. A woman standing alone, silhouetted beneath the flickering street lamp, her figure elegant and graceful despite the soaking rain. Her hair, dark and wet, clung to her pale face, and her eyes, those deep, mysterious eyes, held a sorrow Ethan could feel even from a distance. She was stunning, unlike anyone he had ever seen before, and yet there was something fragile and guarded about her. Without thinking, Ethan approached her. "Are you all right?" he asked softly, his voice barely above the whisper of the rain. She looked up, startled for a moment, then nodded slowly. "I'm fine. Just caught in the rain," she replied, her voice soft like the first drop of dawn. There was a quiet sadness beneath her words, and Ethan felt his heart ache. "I'm Ethan," he said, offering a small smile. "And you are?" "Layla," she said, barely above a breath. Her name sounded like a secret, a melody carried on the wind. Something about her felt distant, as if she belonged to another world entirely. They stood in silence for a moment, the rain falling around them like a curtain shielding them from the rest of the city. Then, as if drawn together by some invisible force, Ethan reached out and took her hand. It was warm despite the chill of the night. "Come with me," he said gently. "I know a place where you can dry off." Layla hesitated, her eyes flickering with uncertainty, but then she nodded. Together they walked through the rain, the sounds of the city fading into the background. Ethan's heart pounded not only from the cold but from the thrill of the unknown. There was something about Layla that pulled him in, something he couldn't resist. They found shelter under the awning of a small cafe, the warm light spilling out onto the wet pavement. Ethan pulled his jacket tighter around her shoulders and smiled. "Better." Layla nodded, her eyes meeting his with a mix of gratitude and something deeper, hope. For the first time in a long while, Ethan felt that spark of connection, a flame igniting between two souls who had been searching for each other in the dark. As the rain slowed to a gentle drizzle, Ethan and Layla talked. She spoke little about her past, brushing aside questions with a delicate sadness that only made Ethan want to know more. But the mystery only made her more beautiful, more alluring. He could see the pain she carried, hidden beneath layers of silence. Hours passed like minutes as they shared stories, dreams, and laughter. The world outside the cafe ceased to exist, replaced by the warmth growing between them. Ethan's artist's heart recognized the poetry in Layla's silence and the music in her smile. Then, as the night deepened, Ethan found himself unable to resist any longer. He reached out, brushing a stray wet lock of hair from Layla's face. Her eyes fluttered closed, and he leaned in. Their lips met in a kiss that was tender and urgent, electric with the passion of two souls finding solace in each other. The rain continued to fall around them, a symphony of nature's rhythm, as if the heavens themselves were blessing their union. Time seemed to stop, the world fading away until there was only the two of them, lost in a moment of pure love and connection. For Ethan, it was more than a kiss. It was the start of something he had been waiting for his entire life, a chance to love someone completely and be loved in return. For Layla, it was a brief escape from the shadows of her past, a glimpse of a future where she could be free and loved without fear. But beneath the magic of that stormy night, a darkness waited, unseen, patient, and ready to shatter the fragile happiness they had found. As the rain washed the city clean, Ethan and Layla stood together, unaware that their kiss had set in motion a chain of events that would change their lives forever. The night was theirs for now. The days after that rainy night seemed to glow with a new light for Ethan. Every moment spent with Layla felt like a precious gift, each smile she gave him warming his heart like the sun breaking through a cold winter's sky. She was like a rare flower blooming in the midst of a storm, beautiful, delicate, and yet strong enough to survive the harshest weather. But as much as Ethan wanted to lose himself in the magic of their growing love, he couldn't shake the feeling that beneath Layla's radiant smile, something dark and heavy was quietly weighing her down. Layla was careful. She kept her past locked away behind closed doors and guarded secrets. Whenever Ethan asked about where she came from, her eyes would cloud over with pain and hesitation. She would smile softly, then quickly change the subject, as if afraid that the truth might break the fragile bond they were building. Ethan tried to be patient, understanding that some wounds took time to heal and some stories were too painful to tell. Yet every time she smiled, there was a flicker of sadness hidden deep within her eyes, a sadness that spoke of lost memories and unanswered questions. Ethan felt the pull of those secrets like a magnetic force, drawing him closer even as they threatened to push him away. His love for Layla was no longer just about the moments they shared. It was about wanting to protect her from whatever shadows haunted her, to be the light in her darkness. But the peaceful bubble they lived in soon began to show cracks. Strange things started happening, things that Ethan couldn't ignore. One evening, as they walked hand in hand through the quiet streets near the park, Ethan noticed a shadow lingering just beyond the streetlights. A figure, tall and silent, watching them from a distance before disappearing into the night. Ethan's heart quickened, but when he mentioned it to Layla, she brushed it off with a nervous laugh, saying it was probably just someone passing by. Then the anonymous warnings began. Ethan found a small, folded note slipped under his apartment door. It was written in hurried, messy handwriting. "Leave her alone. Some past things should stay buried." His blood ran cold. Who could have written this? And why? Ethan's protective instincts flared. Someone was threatening Layla, but he didn't know who or why. Layla's smile grew more fragile with each passing day. She tried to reassure Ethan, telling him not to worry, that they were safe. But her eyes told a different story, one of fear and uncertainty. She confided in him one night, her voice barely above a whisper. "There are things about me, things I can't explain. I'm not the person you think I am." Ethan reached for her hand, his grip steady and warm. "Whatever your past is, I'm here. You don't have to face it alone." Their love, once simple and free, now carried the weight of unspoken truths and invisible threats. Ethan's days became filled with cautious glances over his shoulder, his nights restless as he tried to piece together the puzzle of Layla's life. Despite the growing tension, he refused to let fear drive them apart. Layla's secret world began to bleed into their present. She became restless, often staring out of windows as if waiting for something or someone that never came. One afternoon, while Ethan was at work, Layla received a phone call that made her hands tremble. She whispered a quick apology and left the apartment, her steps hurried and desperate. When she returned hours later, her eyes were red from crying, but she refused to say what had happened. Ethan's heart ached. He wanted to comfort her, to erase the pain he saw hidden beneath her smile. But he also knew that pushing too hard might make her retreat even further. Love was a delicate dance, and right now Layla was leading. One evening, as rain began to fall softly again, Ethan and Layla sat together in his small art studio. The room was filled with half-finished canvases, the scent of oil paint, and the gentle hum of the city outside. Layla's fingers traced the rim of a paintbrush, lost in thought. "Layla," Ethan said gently, breaking the silence. "I need to know. If there's something you're afraid to tell me, please trust me. Whatever it is, it won't change how I feel." She looked at him, her eyes shining with tears she tried to hold back. "I want to tell you, Ethan. I really do. But my past, it's dangerous. There are people who would hurt us if they found out I'm here, if they knew you were with me." Ethan's chest tightened. Danger. The word hung heavy between them. "We'll face it together," he promised. "No matter what comes, I won't leave you." For a moment, Layla's defenses cracked, and she let herself lean into his embrace. The world outside disappeared, leaving only the warmth of their love. But even in that fragile peace, the shadows crept closer. Days later, Ethan found himself followed on his way home. A black car tailed him silently through the rain-soaked streets. When he mentioned it to Layla, her face paled. "You're right," she admitted. "They're watching us." That night, they made a pact to stay close, to watch for signs of danger, and to trust in the love that bound them. Ethan painted a portrait of Layla, capturing the mixture of strength and vulnerability he saw in her. It was his way of holding on to her, of freezing the moment before the darkness swallowed her whole. Their love was tested in ways they had never imagined. But with every secret revealed, every whispered threat, their bond grew stronger. Ethan wasn't just in love with Layla's smile. He was in love with all the parts of her she tried to hide. And no matter what shadows followed, he was determined to protect the woman who had stolen his heart beneath the rain. In the quiet moments between storms, Ethan and Layla dreamed of a future where love could conquer fear, where secrets could be healed, and where their smiles would never need to hide pain again. Until then, they held on, tightly, fiercely, and with a love that burned brighter than any shadow. The morning sun struggled to break through the heavy clouds as Ethan slowly opened his eyes. The warmth he had felt just hours before, the tender embrace of Layla, the lingering sweetness of their kiss under the rain, seemed like a distant dream now. Outside, the city buzzed with life, but inside Ethan's small apartment, silence weighed heavily. His phone buzzed incessantly on the bedside table, breaking the quiet with urgency. Groggily, Ethan reached for the phone. A flood of messages and missed calls greeted him. Among them was a news alert that made his heart stop. A murder had taken place last night near the old town square, the very place where he and Layla had shared their unforgettable kiss beneath the rain. Ethan sat up, his mind racing. How could this be? The magic of last night, the hope they had found in each other, was it all a fragile illusion? He needed to know more, so he grabbed his jacket and rushed to the scene. The streets were already cordoned off by police tape, and flashing lights painted the rain-slicked pavement in eerie red and blue. Curious onlookers whispered behind barriers, their faces a mix of shock and morbid fascination. Ethan pushed through the crowd, his heart pounding. As he neared the center of the chaos, he caught sight of Layla. She stood just beyond the tape, her arms wrapped tightly around herself, her eyes wide and frightened. The once radiant smile he adored was gone, replaced by a pale mask of shock and confusion. A police officer stepped forward, his expression stern. "You need to come with us for questioning," he said, addressing Layla. Ethan's stomach clenched. "Layla," he said softly, moving closer, "what's going on? What happened here?" Layla shook her head, tears spilling down her cheeks. "I don't know," she whispered. "I wasn't involved. I swear." Despite her words, the officers glanced at Ethan and Layla with suspicion. Witnesses claimed to have seen a woman matching Layla's description near the scene of the crime shortly before the victim was found. The weight of the accusation pressed down on Ethan like a physical force. But he refused to believe she was capable of harm. He stepped in front of Layla, his voice firm. "She's with me. She's innocent." His eyes locked onto hers, silently promising protection. The investigation quickly intensified. Police began to piece together the timeline, asking difficult questions that Layla struggled to answer. Her mysterious past now seemed to cast a long shadow over their budding love. Friends and neighbors whispered doubts, their glances filled with suspicion rather than sympathy. Ethan watched helplessly as Layla's world began to unravel. The woman who had captivated him with her beauty and mystery was now fighting to prove her innocence against a rising tide of suspicion. Yet, despite the mounting evidence, Ethan's belief in her never wavered. He spent sleepless nights poring over every detail he could find. He talked to witnesses, examined photos, and tried to find any clue that could clear Layla's name. Love was driving him, not just passion but a fierce determination to save the woman who had stolen his heart. Even when others doubted, Ethan held on to hope. He remembered the warmth of her touch, the honesty in her eyes during their quiet moments. None of that fit with the image the police were painting. One evening, as the rain returned to drench the city once more, Ethan and Layla met in secret at his apartment. Tension between them was thick, but so was their love. Layla's hands trembled as she reached for Ethan's, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm scared, Ethan. They think I did something terrible, but I don't remember anything. That night, everything is a blur." Ethan pulled her close, his arms a shield against the cold world outside. "We'll get through this together. I won't let anyone hurt you, not now, not ever." In that embrace, Layla found a brief sanctuary from the storm raging outside and within her own mind. Ethan's love was a lifeline, a promise that she was not alone. But the truth was elusive. Shadows of doubt crept into their hearts, threatening to tear them apart. Each new piece of evidence seemed to deepen the mystery rather than solve it. Ethan knew they were running out of time. The real killer was still out there, and until they found the truth, their love would be tested by fear, suspicion, and the unrelenting pressure of a crime they didn't commit. Yet in the midst of the chaos, Ethan made a silent vow. No matter what happened, no matter how dark the path ahead, he would stand by Layla's side. Their love was stronger than the whispers of doubt, brighter than the darkest night, and worth fighting for until the very end. The days following the murder investigation were some of the most intense and uncertain Ethan and Layla had ever faced. Yet, amid the turmoil, their connection grew deeper, an unspoken bond forged in the fires of fear and hope. Love, they discovered, could bloom even in the shadow of danger. But with every heartbeat, the threat looming over them grew stronger, threatening to tear apart the fragile peace they'd found. Ethan found himself spending more time by Layla's side than ever before. They shared stolen moments, quiet dinners in dimly lit cafes, long walks through rain-soaked streets, and whispered conversations beneath the stars. Each time he looked into her eyes, he saw the woman he loved, vulnerable yet fierce, beautiful yet haunted. Their love was a refuge, a place where the world's cruelty faded, replaced by tenderness and trust. But the outside world was not so kind. Detective Marcus Hale was relentless. A man hardened by years of chasing criminals and untangling lies, he was convinced that Layla held the key to the truth behind the murder. His sharp gaze seemed to pierce through every smile and every word, as if trying to unravel the tangled web of secrets surrounding her. Ethan had met him once, during a tense questioning session, and knew that this detective was a force they could not ignore. Hale's presence was like a storm cloud that never passed. He asked pointed questions, showing up unexpectedly at Ethan's apartment and Layla's hiding places. His suspicion was obvious, and it weighed heavily on them both. Every look from him felt like an accusation, every silence filled with unspoken doubts. Layla's past, once carefully hidden beneath layers of silence, began to surface in painful flashes. Ethan learned that she had lived a life filled with shadows, people she once trusted who turned into enemies, a world where danger lurked behind every smile. The more he learned, the more he realized how much she had sacrificed to escape it. One evening, Ethan sat across from Layla in a small, cozy restaurant tucked away from prying eyes. The flicker of candlelight cast gentle shadows across her face, revealing the worry she tried so hard to hide. "Layla," Ethan said softly, reaching across the table to hold her hand, "you don't have to carry this alone anymore. Whatever your past is, I want to face it with you." Her eyes shimmered with tears, the weight of her secrets pressing down like a heavy stone. "There are things, Ethan, dangerous things. People who won't stop until they find me. And now it feels like they're closer than ever." Ethan squeezed her hand, determination flaring in his chest. "I'm not going anywhere. We'll face whatever comes together." But as much as they wanted to believe that love could conquer all, the truth was harsher. Detective Hale uncovered connections that pointed directly to Layla, a thread linking her to the victim, a name whispered in old police files, a scar she had tried to hide. Every piece of evidence seemed to draw a tighter noose around her. Ethan watched helplessly as Layla struggled with the pressure. Sometimes, when she thought no one was looking, she would break down, the tears falling like rain on a lonely windowpane. He held her close, whispering words of comfort, trying to be the rock she needed. Their love, fierce and true, became their greatest weapon against the growing darkness. Together, they searched for answers, piecing together fragments of Layla's past, seeking out those who might know the truth and following leads that sometimes brought more danger than hope. One night, as they sat in Ethan's apartment, surrounded by scattered papers and old photographs, Layla revealed a truth that shook them both. "The man who killed that person, he's connected to me. Not just a stranger, but someone I thought I left behind." Ethan's heart pounded. "Who is he?" She hesitated, then said, "He was part of a life I ran from, a life full of violence and control. He's dangerous, and now he's hunting me." The room felt colder suddenly, the threat looming larger than ever before. But Ethan's resolve hardened. "We'll stop him. I promise." Days turned into nights of planning and preparing. Ethan and Layla moved carefully, aware that every step might be watched, every word overheard. They learned to trust only each other as the shadows closed in. Their relationship, tested by fear and uncertainty, grew stronger. They found comfort in the smallest gestures, a hand held tightly in the dark, a whispered "I love you" when the world felt cruel. Love became their anchor, the light that refused to be extinguished. But danger was patient. One evening, as they returned home from a secret meeting with an informant, they noticed a black car following them through the rain-soaked streets. Ethan's grip on the steering wheel tightened, and Layla's breath caught in her throat. "Stay calm," Ethan whispered. "We'll lose them." He navigated through narrow alleys and back roads, heart pounding as the car stayed close behind. Eventually, they managed to shake the tail, but the message was clear: the hunter was near. Detective Hale's investigations continued to close in, and the line between friend and foe blurred. Ethan knew they couldn't trust everyone, that danger lurked even in places they thought safe. Despite the fear, Ethan and Layla held onto their love fiercely. Every kiss was a promise of protection, every embrace a shield against the world. They dreamed of a day when they could live without looking over their shoulders, when their love would no longer be shadowed by fear. But until then, their fight continued. Past was unyielding, the danger real, and the stakes higher than ever. Yet in the darkest moments, Ethan's love for Layla burned brighter, a flame defying the night, a beacon of hope in a world filled with shadows. Their love was dangerous, yes, but it was also unstoppable. And together they would face whatever came, no matter the cost. The night air was thick with tension as Ethan and Layla sat together in the dim glow of Ethan's apartment. The shadows cast by the flickering candlelight danced across the walls, mirroring the storm raging inside their hearts. Trust, once the solid foundation of their relationship, now felt fragile, like glass teetering on the edge of breaking. It had all started with a whisper, a secret passed in hushed tones, a glimpse of a hidden truth that shattered the fragile peace they'd built. Someone they had trusted deeply, someone who had stood by them through the darkest hours, was revealed to have a hand in the crime that threatened to destroy everything they held dear. Ethan's mind raced with confusion and pain. How could betrayal come from someone so close? The person who had offered comfort and support was now the shadow behind their suffering. He wrestled with his emotions, hurt, anger, disbelief, but above all, an unwavering desire to protect Layla, the woman he loved more than anything. Layla sat beside him, her face pale but resolute. "I never thought it would come to this," she whispered, her voice trembling. "But we can't let this break us." "Not now." Ethan took her hand, squeezing it tightly. "I want to believe you, Layla. I want to trust again. But it's hard when the line between friend and foe blurs." Their love had been tested by fear and suspicion, yet it remained their greatest strength. The bond they shared was forged in adversity, and neither was willing to let it be undone by betrayal. Determined to clear Layla's name and find the real truth, they plunged deeper into the mystery. Every clue they uncovered brought them closer to the heart of the danger, but also closer to those who wanted to keep the past buried forever. Late nights turned into early mornings as they pored over documents, photos, and messages. Pieces of the puzzle slowly began to fit together. Hidden connections, secret meetings, and a web of deceit that reached far beyond what they had imagined. One clue led them to a rundown warehouse on the outskirts of the city. The place smelled of rust and forgotten memories. Inside, they found evidence that could exonerate Layla, a recording, a piece of jewelry, a letter that pointed to the real killer's identity. But danger was never far behind. As they gathered proof, the threat grew. Strange figures lurked in the shadows, and anonymous warnings arrived with chilling messages. Stop digging or face the consequences. Ethan and Layla knew they were being watched. Every step they took was risky, but love gave them courage. They refused to back down. Times, the weight of it all threatened to overwhelm them. Arguments flared, fueled by stress and fear, but each time they reconciled, their love deepened. They learned that trust was not just about believing in each other, but about standing together through the darkest trials. One evening, as rain poured outside, Ethan pulled Layla close, his voice steady. "No matter what happens, I'm with you. We fight this together." Layla smiled through her tears, feeling the strength of his promise. "I believe in us." Together, they planned their next move, an attempt to expose the true criminal and bring justice to light. It was a dangerous gamble, but it was the only way to save their future. The night of the confrontation arrived, filled with tension and uncertainty. They met an informant in a deserted park, exchanging hurried whispers under the cover of darkness. The informant handed over a file containing the final pieces of evidence they needed. Just as they were about to leave, headlights flooded the park. Figures emerged, enemies who wanted to silence them forever. Ethan shielded Layla, his heart pounding as they ran through the rain-slicked streets, chased by shadows intent on ending their fight. Every step was a test of their resolve, every breath a promise to survive together. They found refuge in a hidden safe house where they could catch their breath and plan their next move. Though exhausted and scared, their love burned fiercely, a beacon of hope in the darkest night. In those moments, Ethan understood that love was more than just passion. It was strength, resilience, and an unbreakable bond. No matter the betrayals, no matter the danger, he would fight for Layla with every ounce of his being. Their journey was far from over, but with trust rekindled and love as their shield, they faced the future together, undaunted, united, and ready for whatever lay ahead. The rain fell in heavy sheets, washing over the city like a curtain of silver threads. Ethan gripped the steering wheel tightly, his knuckles white, as Layla sat beside him, eyes wide with fear but shining with determination. The night was thick with tension, and every shadow seemed to hide a threat. The final chase had begun, a desperate race against time where love was their only weapon and survival their only goal. Their breath came in ragged gasps, the pounding of their hearts echoing louder than the rain. Behind them, the low rumble of engines chased them through the slick streets, the killer's car relentless in its pursuit. But the police, too, were closing in, sirens blaring in the distance. Ethan glanced in the rearview mirror, the headlights of both friend and foe flickering like ghosts in the storm. "Hold on, Layla," he whispered, his voice steady despite the fear gripping him. "We're almost there. We'll find the truth and we'll be free." Layla nodded, clutching his hand tightly, the warmth between them a fragile shield against the cold night. Their journey had been long and treacherous, filled with secrets, betrayals, and moments of doubt, but through it all their love had grown stronger. It was that love that now fueled their courage, that whispered to them in the dark, "Keep fighting. Don't give up." As they sped through winding alleys and deserted highways, Ethan replayed everything they had learned, the clues, the hidden messages, the faces of those who had tried to stop them. Each revelation had brought them closer to the truth, but also deeper into danger. The final piece of the puzzle awaited at a secluded safe house on the edge of the city, where they hoped to find the evidence that would clear Layla's name once and for all. Suddenly, the killer's car surged forward, attempting to block their path. Ethan swerved sharply, tires skidding on the wet asphalt. The headlights flashed dangerously close, and Layla gasped, pressing herself against the door. For a moment, the world seemed to tilt, a breath held between life and death. But Ethan's grip tightened, his eyes burning with resolve. "Not today," he muttered. With a skill born of desperation, he maneuvered the car through a narrow gap between two buildings, losing the pursuer for a precious few seconds. They didn't have time to rest. The law was still behind them, closing the distance with every turn. "Why won't they believe us?" Layla asked, voice trembling but fierce. I'm innocent, Ethan. We have to prove it. We will, Ethan promised, kissing her hand. Together. The rain soaked through their clothes, but neither noticed. Their world had shrunk to the small bubble of warmth inside the car, their love a beacon cutting through the storm. Reaching the safe house, they hurried inside, slamming the door behind them. The room was dimly lit, filled with old files and scattered papers, the result of weeks of investigation and courage. Layla pulled out a folder marked evidence and laid it on the table, hands trembling. Ethan scanned the documents, photographs, recorded conversations, financial records, all pointing to the real killer. Someone unexpected, someone who had used the shadows to hide their crimes and manipulate the truth. This is it, Ethan said, his voice low but certain. This will clear your name. Layla's eyes filled with tears, a mixture of relief and exhaustion washing over her. We did it, she whispered. We really did. But there was no time to celebrate. Outside, the sound of engines grew louder. Killer wasn't finished, and the police were still closing in, their sirens now echoing through the night like a promise of justice. Ethan took Layla into his arms. No matter what happens next, I love you, he said fiercely. We face this together. Their lips met in a kiss filled with desperation and hope, two souls intertwined against the storm. As footsteps pounded on the stairs, they prepared for the final confrontation. The door burst open and the killer stepped inside, eyes cold and merciless. But Ethan and Layla stood side by side, ready to fight for their love and their future. Words were exchanged, threats and truths laid bare. Tension was thick, but love gave them strength beyond fear. In a moment of courage, Layla revealed a secret she had kept hidden, a weakness of the killer's that turned the tide. With quick thinking and unyielding spirit, they overpowered the threat, forcing him to flee into the night. Police arrived just in time, sirens drowning out the fading footsteps of their pursuer. Ethan handed over the evidence, clearing Layla's name once and for all. Exhausted but victorious, they finally allowed themselves to breathe. Ethan pulled Layla close, the rain now a gentle drizzle outside, washing away the darkness of the past. Their love had been tested by fire and shadow, but it remained unbroken, shining brighter than ever. We made it, Ethan said softly. Layla smiled, tears sparkling like diamonds. Because of you. Because of us. Their hands intertwined, they stepped out into the morning light, a new day, a new beginning. The storm had passed, and with it, the shadows that once threatened to consume them. Together they faced the future, stronger, united, and ready to write their own story, filled with love, hope, and endless possibilities. The rain had stopped, and the clouds were slowly parting, revealing a sky painted with soft hues of pink and gold. The storm that had threatened to tear Ethan and Layla apart had passed, leaving behind a world washed clean and renewed. Standing together on the quiet street where it had all begun, they felt the warmth of a new beginning. Their journey had been marked by fear and uncertainty, but now, in the calm after the tempest, love was all that remained. Ethan looked at Layla, her face radiant in the gentle light, her eyes reflecting the hope they both held deep inside. The shadows of the past had tried to bind them, to break their spirit, but love had been their strongest shield. Every trial, every tear had only drawn them closer, weaving a bond that no darkness could undo. They walked slowly, hand in hand, through the familiar streets that now seemed touched by magic. The air was fresh, carrying the scent of wet earth and blossoming flowers, a promise of life and growth. Layla rested her head against Ethan's shoulder, feeling the steady beat of his heart, a rhythm that matched her own. "Do you remember our first kiss?" she asked softly, a smile playing on her lips. Ethan chuckled, the sound warm and full of affection. How could I forget? The rain, the electricity in the air, it was like the world paused just for us. That moment changed everything, Layla said, her voice filled with tenderness. I never imagined that kiss would lead us through so much darkness, only to bring us here. Ethan pulled her closer, wrapping his arms around her. We made it through together. That's what love is, fighting through the storm, holding on when everything feels uncertain. Their story was one of passion and resilience, of hearts intertwined against all odds. The danger had tested their trust, but it had never destroyed their hope. Instead, it had forged a love that was unbreakable, a connection that thrived in the face of adversity. As they stood beneath the clearing skies, Ethan took a small velvet box from his pocket. Layla's eyes widened in surprise, shimmering with emotion. "This is for you," he said, opening the box to reveal a delicate ring sparkling with a single radiant diamond. "Not just for the promise of forever, but for every moment we've shared, the pain, the joy, the fight. I want to build our future on trust, passion, and the love that survived the darkest storm." Tears welled in Layla's eyes, shining with happiness and relief. She nodded, her voice trembling with emotion. "Yes, Ethan. 1,000 times yes." They sealed their promise with a kiss, soft, deep, and filled with the promise of new beginnings. Around them, the world seemed to hold its breath, witnessing a love reborn from the ashes. Days turned into weeks, and their life together blossomed like the spring after a long winter. They found joy in the simple moments, morning coffees, shared laughter, quiet walks beneath the stars. Every smile, every touch was a celebration of survival and love. Layla found strength in Ethan's unwavering support, and he found peace in her presence. Together, they built a sanctuary where trust was sacred and passion burned bright. Their home echoed with warmth and light, a refuge from the shadows that once haunted them. Though the scars of their past remained, they wore them with pride, as reminders of battles won and love that endured. They had faced the storm and emerged stronger, ready to embrace the future hand in hand. Their story was no longer about fear or loss, but about hope and the power of love to heal even the deepest wounds. It was a testament to the courage it takes to trust again, to open one's heart despite the risks. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, Ethan and Layla sat on their porch, wrapped in a cozy blanket. The world was quiet around them, but their hearts spoke volumes. "I never want to take this for granted," Ethan said softly. "You saved me in ways I didn't even know I needed." Layla smiled, her hand resting on his cheek. "And you saved me from running forever. Now I'm home." They leaned into each other, their love a gentle flame that would never flicker out. Together they had weathered the storm, and now, with the skies clear and their hearts full, they faced the future, not as two broken souls but as one unbreakable force. Their journey had been long and arduous, but it had led them to a love worth fighting for, a love that promised forever even after the darkest night. In that moment, beneath the stars and clearing skies, Ethan and Layla knew they had found their true beginning, their forever after.